plays have any teeth to them? Well, they certainly did with Anna K. Jacobs and Michael R. Jackson's musical Teeth, which is based on some horror movie, apparently, about this very religious guy played by Stephen Pasquale, who has gathered all the women together and the boys and everything. They all have to stay pure and chaste. And one of them didn't and got pregnant. So she is, ostracized by the group. And the boys are all like going crazy over this, and they're disgusted by this feminocracy. Then it turns out that the main character, Dawn, unbeknownst to her, she's got teeth in her vagina, and they're like causing havoc with certain things. So anyway, that's basically the plot. The choreography is by one of my favorite people, Raja Feather Kelly. I love him, and it was directed by Sarah Benson, we should just say. But now Valerie will go into more details about themes and such like that.
Yes, yes. And with this show, it certainly was a mouthful of many different themes about our society ills that we are facing today. We saw this spiral of having this religious experience, like the women who are saving themselves, and then we have the men who are saving themselves, but then everything unravels with the pregnancy. But then Dawn has these moments where her vagina snips off the penises of the men who wrong her, and how at first there's that purity, but then hell hath no fury. And at first we see the two lovebirds, Toby and Dawn, singing songs like Modest is Hottest. And then there's the character of Ryan and his struggles with being gay. There's these songs where they want to be born again so they could be different from what they are, and because society can't accept them as who they are. There's homophobia, and then it touched on subjects of rape and sexual violence and an abusive parent, which is Stephen Pasquale's character, where he plays the pastor yet beats his son. And then the blaming of women. For instance, they talk about how Eve took down the Garden of Eden, and Dawn sing, it's always the woman song, which is always the fault of the woman. And then the women take power, and they don't want to be, quote, take me down, the way one of the songs are. And the men are looking to be the truth seekers, and they want to find the truth of Dawn, and like Eva mentioned earlier about the women being in power.
Dawn was played by Elise Allen Louise because she was really very good. Anyway, I'm going to give it, I think I'll give it a happy face minus.
I thought it was definitely a worth seeing. I gave it a happy face minus. I think there were parts where I felt like, is it a comedy? Is it not? And I think there was a little bit too much packed in with everything. So I think it was something I would definitely recommend, and it's definitely touched on so many topics today that are hot topics, especially for the young people of today.
I got to see one of the Fringe shows. Yay! Arnie Chartiet's, Yoni Grutenmacher's, Julia Rotkin, and David Slawski's Schmaltz, which centers on Goldie's Kosher Deli in Brooklyn that is falling apart. Cheryl, Merrill, and Peril are this three-pronged Yenta Jewish chorus who breaks the fourth wall to comment to the audience on the state of Goldie's Kosher Deli that is neglected by the owner's son, Isaac, who'd rather play basketball. He leaves the running to the sole employer, Mindy. She's fed up with having to put up with no customers and dusty tuna fish. She's ready to pack it in. Isaac then comes up with the brilliant idea to have this TikTok influencer, Ethan, help bring in business. Does it work or create a whole other set of problems? What does Shmuel, who makes sure everything sticks to kosher rules, make of this new version of Goldie's? This starts out very entertaining with these three yentas fetching and gossiping away, but halfway it goes off the rails and heads in a different direction. For one thing, the busybodies start talking in rhyme, which comes out forced. They even know it's forced, but keep doing it. When they weren't under the constraints of poetry, they were just so much fun whenever they popped in. There were some good moments and some valid points raised, but then there were some off-the-wall comments made by the Mishkia, that Shmuel, that had nothing to do with the plot. But the cast was very engaging. Georgina Saldana Wanchi as the overworked Mindy, Joshua Horowitz as the inept Isaac, Joshua Smithline as Ethan, the gung-ho TikToker, and Rita Rand, Bridget Burke Weiss, and Anna Jackson were quite amusing as the Yentas. David Slarsky makes a late appearance as Shmuel to keep things kosher and on the up and up. I'm glad I was able to see at least one of the 47 Fringe plays taking place right now. Happy face minus. Water for Elephants, with a book by Rick Ellis and music and lyrics by Pigpen Theater Company, based on the novel by Sarah Gruen, is about this old timer played by Greg Edelman, Jacob, who left his assisted living home in order to go to the circus and reminisce about the time he had run away from home and ended up with the Benini Circus, which apparently had an incident happen that was world famous. So the present day owners were really interested to hear this guy's story. So we travel back in time and we meet young Jacob and how he ends up hopping the rails, gets involved with the circus, and falls in love with the equestrians, who is married to the mean ringmaster, and the horse is ill, and so they end up acquiring an elephant, and which takes the circus in a whole new direction. And some of the circus performers are from this Canadian troupe called Sept Droit, whom I just adore. They're so good. It was all directed by Jessica Stone and choreographed by Jesse Robb and Shanna Carroll. And I've loved Pigpen since the Fringe 20 years ago with A Nightmare Story. So to see them on Broadway is like the biggest thrill of my life.
I should mention that Jacob and Marlena, who's the equestrian, were very, very gentle with the elephant. They were able to train her and keep her happy. But August, who's very mercurial, sometimes he could be wonderful, but other times he gets completely unhinged. And he was very brutal with Rosie the elephant. That does not augur well for the future. I loved it set in 1931, the early part. I loved the period piece show costumes. The lighting was very cheerful, mostly for the first part, and became kind of darker, red, and a bit nightmarish for the second part. The music was very old-timey too. There was a cakewalk to entice customers to the circus, and other kind of like bluesy and folksy songs for, the sort of narrative songs. The people that we got to meet were very interesting. There was Barbara, who's like the leader of the sexy female dancers, Camel, who is an old manager. And it's just a very enjoyable show that I think everybody would like. Happy
Wade McCollum was like the guy who built everything and was kind of grumpy. Paul Alexander Nolan was the ringmaster. Isabel McCullough was the equestrian, and Grant Gustin was the young Jacob. And it just it makes you want to run off to the circus. I mean, it was just funny and moving and just gripping with suspense and excitement. And you're just caught up in this guy's story and it was almost like notebooky with this guy reminiscing sort of thing. So I'm giving this a major happy face. This is Sasha Clarke's review of Tuesdays with Morrie. Mitch Albom teamed up with Jeffrey Hatcher to create a stage version of his book, Tuesdays with Morrie. Chris Domick, playing Mitch, is our guide and narrator. He is quite taken with the sociology professor Morrie, played by Len Cariou, while at Brandeis, where Mitch also spent time playing the piano, which Morrie enjoyed. They kept in touch for a while, but life happened. Mitch's uncle became ill and died. Mitch decided it was time to grow up and become a journalist and very successful sports writer, eventually settling in Detroit. After Mitch sees a Nightline interview with Morrie, he learns that Morrie has been diagnosed with ALS and felt he had to contact him. He flies down to Boston for a final farewell, but instead it turns into a weekly visit of Tuesdays with Morrie, with many profound statements made like, when you learn to die, you learn how to live. As always with unconventional spaces, and this is St. George's Episcopal Church, there are some challenges. Keeping things simple, the set design by Guy Delancey is a concert grand piano used frequently, some chairs, and a minimum of props. Erwin Maas, the director, does a fine job utilizing the space and keeping the play moving between narration and scenes. Chris Domick, playing Mitch Albom, is warm, showing Mitch's vulnerabilities as he is trying to improve himself as a human being. Len Cariou as Morrie is straightforward and pragmatic. Having already accepted that he is going to die, he is determined to live fully to the end. Due to it being presented in a church, the performance schedule is different than what you might expect. There's still only one performance left, which is tonight, April 20th at 7:30. Run to go see it. Happy Face Plus.
Circle in the Square is presenting An Enemy of the People, written by Henrik Ibsen, with a new version by Amy Herzog, directed by Sam Goel. The way to prosperity for a small Norwegian town is through the opening and promotion of its spa. Dr. Thomas Stockman, a doctor and scientist, was an initial supporter of the baths, but now he has his doubts. A report in the mail reveals that the water samples sent by him are dangerously polluted. The doctor's brother, Peter Stockman, who is the town's mayor and president of the Spa Corporation, is most avidly opposed to the news of the pollution becoming public. Editor-in-chief of the local paper, Hofstad, and the local printer, Aslaksen, agreed to print Dr. Stockman's report. Later, reflection on the cost to the townspeople for cleaning and redirecting the spa's water supply caused Hofstad, a champion of the poor and working class, and Aslaksen, a moderate man and a key figure in many middle-class organizations, to turn against Dr. Stockman in his report. In addition to financial concerns, many townspeople are not convinced by the scientific reasoning. Bacteria, invisible without a microscope, are hard for them to accept. It's amazing how viciously the people turn against Dr. Stockman, dubbed an enemy of the people. It's hard not to connect the willful and pernicious ignorance of the townspeople with Trump and his supporters. Petra, the doctor's intelligent and hardworking daughter, and a local sea captain, Horster, are the only loyal supporters of Dr. Stockman. The performers are all convincing, and their portrayals and they look their parts, creating an extremely apt ensemble. There was considerable folk singing, authentic, I suppose, in transitions and introducing new scenes. I'm surprised at how much that musical genre annoyed me, but I'm still giving this a happy face minus.
I happen to love Norwegian music. I learned one when I was a little kid. Jeg fikk Omen, Popa, and Teddy, and I still remember it about a little cricket or teddy bear. So I like that. And yes, we should say that the enemy of the people, the doctor was played by Jeremy Strong, and his mayor brother was Michael Imperioli. The daughter was Victoria Pedretti, and that Captain Horstetter was Alan Tron, and David Patrick Kelly and Thomas J. Ryan were also in this, and Katie Broad and Matthew August Jeffers to round out this amazing cast. But it's just interesting to see how, they'd rather poison people than lose money. Money is it really is the root of all evil. It really, you could be a reasonable person, but you take away someone's, money and source of money, and they just become rabid dogs. So I really like this version. I've seen it before, and at the intermission, if you get to the stage quick enough, you could get a glass of Skol or some Norwegian drink and sort of join in with the singing. It was very festive, and it was just well done as Circle in the Square. I enjoyed it immensely. So I'm giving this a happy face. James Harrison Monaco's Travels is a collection of 8 stories using electronic music, beats, synthesizer, loops, etc., to convey the various locales and people that James met amongst his travels. He divides the storytelling up with Elbe, Ashley De La Rosa, Mary Eslamenia, and John Murchison. He opens with a Lyft driver who is taking him from LAX to Orange County. James tries to be polite by not boring the driver with inane questions, but an opening occurs when the driver tells him to pick whatever music he likes. James puts on music with an Arabic flavor, and the driver gets excited, thinking it is Egyptian, as he is originally from Egypt. Since James is fascinated with the Middle East, the conversation flows fast and furious. Oddly enough, they both share a love of porcelain. One never knows the common ground you can share with strangers all over the world randomly. At an Airbnb, he meets Thomas and hears the twists and turns of his heartbroken tale of romance with Gerhard that leads to another love and job, and how certain events can change the fate of people. In coming across the cabaret law in Switzerland, he discovered an interesting bit of Dominican history in regards to Switzerland. In Mexico, James was recommended to go to Guanajuato, where he met two partying school teachers who he had a wild time with before they had to go back to work. Most of the stories return to his friend R, who loved books like James, but R had the added excitement of trying to track them down in Persian. R was also a journalist and wrote political articles that got him into serious trouble. These stories made you realize how important it is to listen to people's stories as you find out what very interesting facts that you would know about safe in your isolated binge watching home. My friend and I just loved this, and the performers were magnificent storytellers and singers. Happy face.
Roundabout Theatre Company is presenting a revival of John Patrick Shanley's 2004 play Doubt, which is set in a church and school in the Bronx in 1964. The very charismatic priest, Father Flynn, talks about the difference between communal grief from Kennedy's assassination and the isolating effect of personal doubt. He's very warm. He also coaches basketball and is extremely personal with the boys. Sister Aloysius Bouvier, who is the principal, is the opposite. She's extremely cold, rule-bound and conservative, frowns on fountain pens, suspicious of everything, including students' nosebleeds. Her biggest suspicion, however, concerns Father Flynn, who she thinks has seduced the school's only Black student, the 8th grader David Muller, and has given him sacramental wine. The other main person is Sister James, who's extremely young and innocent and comes through her confrontations with Sister Aloysius and Father Flynn to kind of grow out of her innocence, being jolted out of it and not having any sense of assurance anymore. The surprising scene-stealing scene comes from the boy's mother when she meets with the principal. The mother has a very different take on the situation and tries to protect her son with diplomacy and unusual insight. This is a really great production of a really great play. I have to give it an absolute happy.
And it helps. It has the most amazing cast with Amy Ryan as the principal, Zoe Kazan as the young sweet nun, and then Leah Schreiber as the priest. It's 1964. I mean, first of all, the fact that ballpoint pens would be considered the sign of the devil. I mean, you never even think that. And also, back then, no one ever thought of a priest in a bad light like she's thinking, because that didn't come out till much later. But here's the thing that I found interesting, because I've seen the play before, and it's a great play, is now if the principal is right, then she's a hero. But if she's wrong, then she's a villain. So it's like you have the doubt about whether she's a villain or a hero. And the fact that she's like, protecting the students and worrying, I mean, it's like we don't like her. But if she's like right and she's protecting the boy, that's a good thing, that she's like, she may be a horrible person and so tight-fisted and everything, but the fact that she really is trying to protect her charges, but at the same time, she's kind of ruining this innocent young nun by trying to make her like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you got to think this way, you got to think that way. And it's just really and you have to think about it all on yourself. It's like, you have your own doubts about what is going on up there, which makes it very interesting and clever. And John Patrick Shanley is just a wonderful writer, and it was well directed and everything. It's a wonderful production. So definitely, this is a major happy face for me too. Nelson Diaz Marcano's Las Borinqueñas is a little known history of how the birth control pill was developed using Puerto Rican women as test subjects. We follow a group of female friends in Puerto Rico, sisters, excitable Rosa and practical Chavala, who just returned after being in New York City, another set of sisters, obedient Fernanda and deeply religious and moral Yolanda, and Maria, who is too close to Fernanda to make Yolanda very unhappy. They've all been friends since their poorer childhood days. Their fate, whether they want it or not, is to get married and constantly have babies. Well, things improve when Dr. Pincus comes to town with his wife Peggy, who gets Idris Rice Ray to promote this family planning, as they call it. The trouble is, they gloss over the side effects as they want this trial to succeed. The ensemble is excellent, and I really cared about their fate. I looked up what Las Borinqueñas means. It is the national anthem of Puerto Rico. I always enjoy historical plays that teach me something I don't know. Since a lot of the dialogue was in Spanish, I wish that I understood Spanish more, but I still really like this a lot. Happy face. We went to a revival of the Who's Tommy with music and lyrics by Pete Townsend, booked by Pete Townsend and Des McAnuff, who also directed it. It's choreographed by Lauren Lataro. And basically, it's a story of this family during World War II where the father goes off to fight and the mom's pregnant. And a few years later, when he's 4 years old, a traumatic event occurs to Tommy and he becomes deaf, dumb, and blind. And we got Tommy age 4, played by Cecilia Ann Pop, Tommy age 10, played by Quentin Kusheba, and the regular Tommy, Ali Louis Bourgeois, I'm sorry about messing up their names, who basically narrates and talks to the whole thing and tells us everything that's going on. And it's a rock opera, lots of lighting effects. So I didn't see much of it, but Bina did. But I just want to say that there were certain elements of the story that I found kind of icky, but I don't want to go into details. But anyway, Bina's turn to tell you all about it that I couldn't see.
You know, I have never seen this play, and I'm amazed that I haven't, because I always loved the music. I always used to sing this song when I was even much younger. Tommy, can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you feel me? Can you heal me? I love that. So you see, this story is not only the music, it's about a real family story, like Eva just mentioned. And the husband is played by Adam Jacobs, and the wife is played by Alison Luff. And they are wonderful actors. And they just like your heart goes out to them because their child is having difficulty for a long time. And then the older Tommy is fabulous. Ali Louis Bourgeois. He's become like his uncle takes him to a club where there's a pinball machine, which becomes the main part of the play towards the end. And he can play. He's a wizard of the pinball, and he become very big celebrity. And then then he realized that this doesn't really work, the celebrity kind of thing. But he's become very sympathetic. There's a young girl who comes to his events, and she falls down, and he really sympathetically helps her. Her name is Sally. And this play has incredible, of course, music and great lighting design, and thunderstorms and lighting and darkness and all that. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. So I will really give this a happy face. I enjoyed it very much. Happy face from me.
And because of the lighting elements and a couple of ick factors for me, I'm just going to give it a mixed face. But that's, but you know what you're getting into if you know the album. At La Mama is Theodora Skipitares' 4 lives based on Pythagoras' notion of 4 lives consisting of mineral, animal, vegetable, and human. We go to 4 different locations. The first for animals is insects. We gathered lots of information about ants, which led to Antigone, which I thought was very clever as a lover of puns. For humans, we see how humans were first created, and it wasn't Adam and Eve, and it will rock your world. Vegetables were represented by plants introduced to us by Charles Darwin himself. Plants sure know how to boogie. The last was mineral, with Marie Curie and a dire warning of a world without us. This was Theodora's most fanciful creation. Most of the time, I just had a big old smile on my face and a look of wonder. The face masks were so realistic, and with just cloth, festive dancing was evoked. There was constant surprises in the various forms and the puppets and techniques used. And Skipitares' music was perfect setting up the moods. The stories and puppets brought out. And the puppeteers were masterful in bringing this magical world to life. Now, I see all of Theodora's show and I just love her. But I tell you, I think this was my all-time favorite. I really love this one. So, you know, go see this. Major, major happy face. And our next show will be May 4th. And until then, this is what's going on. The Hollow is going on an Agatha Christie story until April 21st at the Players Theater. Orlando, a biography, which is based on Virginia Woolf, is at the Tank until April 24th. And there's another Orlando going on at the Signature until May 12th. Origin's First Irish is going on until April 28th. And since there's so many plays and venues, go to their website, Origin Theater First Irish Festival. Omnium Circus in I'm Possible is at the New Victory until April 28th. J2 Spotlight is back starting with Do Re Mi until April 28th, and they're at AMT this time. They're doing Lucky Stiff from May 3rd to 12th, and they have a cabaret series on April 23rd at 7:30, Make Someone Happy, the songs of Comden, Green, and Stein, and on May 7th at 7:30, Back to Before, the songs of Ahrens and Flaherty. Marilyn Mays is still going strong at 54 Below, April 20th, May 2nd, 5th, and 6th. And the Clive and Valerie Barnes Awards is going on at Florence Gould Hall on April 29th at 5:30. Noel Coward's I'll Leave It to You at Symphony Space on April 29th at 7:30. And at Irish Rep, you've got the Friel Project reading series still going on with Faith Healer on April 25th, The Home Place on May 2nd, and their main stage production of Philadelphia Here I Come until May 5th. Ildiko Nemeth's New Stage Theater is doing In the Common Hour until May 4th, and Mackers is a theater for a new audience until May 4th. Anyway, a decent Pesach to everyone, since Easter's already happened, and I'm glad everyone got through Ramadan okay. This is a very holiday-ish April, and see you in May.